afternoon. I'm Yolanda from +8 Design Sharing Platform on behalf of +86 China Food Design Association, the organizer of the Future Food Design Trend Seminar. Thank you all for the participation and support. Last week, we opened up the first talk titled China Future Food Trends. This is a serial event with 7 different topics, and the aim is to invite people from various food design sectors to share their vision on future food trends, which will support organizations, enterprises, brands, and food designers and foodies to learn more creative ideas, directions, and new opportunities that can help cope with the changes in the future. And we wish +886 China Food Design Association can become an innovative food design and trend research platform. We would like to call up academics, cross-disciplinary food designers, industry professionals, and innovators around the world to communicate and collaborate. Together, we will join, promote the world food design culture, influence the society's food consumption mentality, and improve people's life quality and a sense of happiness. So today, we are very happy to invite food design educator, Dr. Francesca Zampollo, to be our moderator for today's seminar dialogue between China and the West. Explore the future food. She is the founder of the online school of food design and founding editor of the International Journal of Food Design. So welcome. And now, please, I will hand over the mic to Francesca, Dr. Francesca, to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yolanda, for your introduction. And thank you to all the audience who's here now and who will be watching this recording later on. Very exciting seminar that we have here for you today with 5 wonderful, magnificent speakers that I can't wait to hear from. I want to start this webinar, this seminar, by introducing to you all the speakers very quickly, and then each speaker will have between 12 and 15 minutes to give their presentation and talk about their practice and their philosophy. But we will have your questions, guys, to the audience throughout the presentation. So in between speakers, presentations also, not just in the end. So whenever you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat room, and Yolanda will pass it to me and translate it if it is in Chinese. So feel free to speak in write in Chinese, of course. And we'll have somehow something that looks more like a conversation instead of, you know, just us talking to you and that's it. So I'm gonna start introducing to you our excellent speakers today in the order that they will speak. Very excited to introduce to you first Nicole Vindel. She's an artist and a designer based in Barcelona, Spain. She comes from industrial engineering with a thesis and therefore a curiosity in materials. She has since been interested in applying materials to gastronomy. Her interest is specifically on the exploration of sensory experience, but also culture and diversity through food. Besides having her own studio, Nicole Vindel, she's also the founder of Random Happiness and Food Design Nation, which she will mention today. Our following speaker will be Chef Li Yan. Li started his career as a chef 19 years ago, so quite a bit of experience, of course. He has spent 7 years in Ireland as a professional chef, and in 2010, he moved back to China in Wangio. But next month, this is the big announcement, I guess. I am excited. I guess Lee is even more excited than I am, I would expect. He's opening his own restaurant in Dali, south of China. I looked it up on Google and it looks like a wonderful little town. I don't know how little, but it looks like a wonderful town. Thanks to his bicultural approach to gastronomy, Lee has an interesting and fresh perspective on this subject that we're all interested in hear more about today. Our following speaker will be Vanessa Redondo. Exactly. Vanessa has a degree in architecture, and she has always been interested in conceptual design, designing mostly pieces and objects. But because of her everlasting passion for food, a few years ago, she was able to merge all of her passions with the studio We Crave Design, where she focuses her attention on the various aspects of the food experience. Vanessa is based in Madrid, Spain. Thank you. And our following speaker will be Professor Xing Penghua. I'm doing my best. Professor, wave your hand. Hello. She's a professor at the South China Normal University, where she teaches industrial design, but encouraging her students to also use food and all edible material. She is also an architect, and she has her own practice, where a practice as a space designer also, and she has worked on various project for food services, and she will show us some examples today. Professor Xing has studied in Europe, in France, so she too merges this European and Chinese culture. And finally, our last speaker will be Jasper Udink 10K. Most or more or less. Jasper, say hi. He is the founder of the multidisciplinary art and design studio called Creative Chef. The studio specializes in food design and creative art direction, product development, and marketing strategies for companies. Jasper's motto is, and this I took it from his website because it's wonderful. His motto is, "I'm a guy who enjoys life and all its imperfections and celebrations." I love it. Jasper is based in Utrecht, Netherlands. I would start with our first presentation, if it is okay for everybody. And so I'm going to introduce to you Nicole Vindel. Nicole, you are free to share your screen and start your presentation.
Thank you, Francesca. Let me see if it works. I'm going to share my screen. Wait, do you see it? Or not yet? Do you see my screen? Wait, I'm going to try this.
So now it's back to you.
Is it working?
Yeah, working perfect.
Okay, so thank you very much for inviting me to talk today. I'm going to talk about how money rules the world, but food shapes it. I know it's very interesting to know about money, but in this case, we're going to talk more about food, sorry. I'm going to start with a narrative that I like to explore from like the beginning, that it's how humanity has been changing our foods and shaping them. And to shape our bodies, so at the same time, it's like we are shaping us.
Food shapes humans. Food shapes.
And this could be a loop, but these are the kind of things that we like to talk about from the studio that they have, where I'm based now in Barcelona, where we, with a small team, it's a very small studio, we work in 3 main areas. It's from a design and art perspective, we generate new narratives around food, and that means that the work is divided between research, practice, project-based, and education. and that the magic happens when you find like the intersections of each of the fields. And there's some satellite projects like Food Design Nation, Random Happiness, and Kiki Buba that are jumping and collaborating with the studio in many times. But because that might sound a bit broad, I want to put you some examples so you can understand better what it means. One thing that we have started doing together with Random Happiness a few time ago is generating or creating alternative futures of, in this case, of food. And there's better ways of eating, more efficient, where there's no food waste, and we can divide all the earth production in a more efficient way. The problem is that usually these ways are untasty, are not pleasurable enough, and we like to feel the ingredients, to smash them with our bodies, to feel the contrast of temperature, of textures, and play with it. And actually, this is very interesting because we made like everything started in this project with the research about how we perceive like plant-based meats or meats and how these made our senses awake, right? And from the exploration of our physiologic response to this sensory stimuli, we started thinking about how could we come up with new ideas more efficient to feed humanity and society, but how can we do it in a pleasurable way? So Pleasure, the Future of Food is an artwork that explores how can we, in a utopic future, as Margaret Atwood would say, how can we stimulate different parts of the brain to reproduce synthetically the pleasures of eating? And I say pleasures because each of the pieces explores a different pleasure, as the one when we're dreaming, for example. What if we could feel the taste or the senses and the
就
experience
是
of it
去
when
激活我们
eating?
呼吸
Or
的
what if
感
we
官。
connect it with the memory and the visuals?
那这
right?
就
And
是
how
强
can
调
we
记忆的
taste
这一
something
方
that we
面，
taste that we ate years ago? Or how
就是
can
我们
we
如何去回忆
use
起
the
几年前
fantasy
去
to make
吃
like
到的
born, and we can envision how it works together with the different parts of the brain. This is a sci-fi based product. I'm sorry it's not ready yet, but probably it's gonna inspire someone. And also I wanted to introduce a bit of what's going on, what's happening in terms of trends that drove us to the next project, right? So here's we are now more than ever connected people, more connected than ever, but we're lonely in those pockets of isolated capsules that are our phones. And this loneliness means more angry people, right? Means that you're narrowing down the information that you're receiving, and at the end, it's like you're getting a very concrete thing around what you want to hear and not what it's reality. So it's a distorted reality. And how we're driving into a controlled society because every smarter device and app and artificial intelligence that we have means that we're getting more controlled. We're also in a world where competitiveness is something mandatory. We're meant to be successful 24/7 and show it on the social medias and on our platforms, show it to the world. Otherwise, we won't be featured, you know. And this makes a sense of individuality that it's quite questioning. And then we are in the era of frictionless everything. It's interesting how we have a lot of power under our thumb. And we are living in this overization of society where everything is very comfortable, but maybe we're losing some capability. But there's hope, and there's counter trends also that are happening at the same time. Yes, and these are some of them: cultures of care, home restaurants, zero mile food, zero waste initiatives, plant-based meats, collaborative platforms, urban farming, and so on. And I'm gonna talk with today about some of them and how these trends have been inspiring sometimes and sometimes not, but how sometimes we work with them in the studio, right? Slow food is something more like a belief, more like a philosophy that we defend. And actually, if you don't know about that, we invite you to understand the principles of slow food because it makes a lot of sense in a holistic way. Another reference would be something we got to see in real time in real life in Eindhoven. When we were in 2017, I think that during one of the design weeks, and in Crave, it's a building that it's actually parking that it's not used, it's not being used because there's no cars in the streets anymore in the around this area. So these parkings are empty, and they are using them to have aquaponic systems, like massive systems able to produce 22,000 kilograms of vegetables and 2.5 kilograms of fish a year. That means that they are able to source their local area, and that's an admirable initiative that we can focus on for futures. And I'm sure that Jasper knows about that. And then another trend that is interesting is talking about real fooding. And I like to say it's like honest fooding. Because when we go to the supermarket, we are shocked with all this over information coming from one side and the other, and everything is so shiny and looking so tasty that we want to buy everything. And it's made for consumption, but it's not made in a honest way yet. I like to reference Martí Guichet iCake, where he's playing with infographics and how can we show the ingredients of a cake, of a product, right? And I'm ask myself, like, why aren't we using that every day in everyday products, like in the packaging that we are using, so we can understand what, not only what we are craving and what we like to eat, but also in a more honest way, what it's done, and maybe the history of these products that would be next level, right? So in this case, we would realize that there's sugar everywhere. And this is a reality that actually inspired the last work I have been developing. That in this case, it's Invisible Enemy. It's an artwork that talks about energy versus destruction, and the pleasure versus the awareness of what's going on on our bodies. And Invisible Enemy invites to reflect on the nature of a material able to transform our bodies, but also our habits and environment. And it's interesting because this artwork is made to make visible and tangible what's the danger of these ingredients. That it's not the material itself. Like if we consume it as it was meant to be consumed, that it's not everywhere. It wouldn't be a problem, but the problem itself is its invisibility, how it's inside every product that we consume, and we don't know about that, right? And it has a lot of potential. So this is like playing with symbolism and reflection. Another artwork that I think that can be also driven from this concept. It's awareness eating, and to be aware of everything that is going through our bodies, that it's quite difficult because sometimes it seems so beautiful and we got attracted and seduced by our senses, and sugar surrounds us, as we were saying, it's everywhere and seduces our taste buds. So we got addicted to these instant micro doses of satisfaction. But we're living in a moment where there's more people dying from obesity than from hunger in the world. So in this case, Feed the Myth opens a dialogue about our current food condition. If we do one step backwards, we would realize that it's not as beautiful as it seems, or it's meant to seem. And this opens like a reflection of our inner relationship and condition, because sometimes there's communities that, because of the concept and the context where you're living, you have accessibility or not to certain foods. So it's not just a food choice, and it goes deeper and deeper. Another topic that it's interesting, and also it's a trend, it's digital ecologies. How can we play with a digital world that it's not meant to substitute the physical one, but to complement it? And in this context, it born Food Design Nation, that it's a collaborative platform meant to connect people playing or working in the fields of food design in a very broad spectrum, to design collectively the futures of food. In this case, the main values are collaborative. We're working with a very inclusive and transdisciplinary community that is based in different parts of the world because it's digital, it's nomadic, it's adaptable, it's multicultural, and it's meant to shape the futures with an open source, visionary, and impactful approach. Currently, we launched it the 7th of January, was our birthday. And since then, we have been growing slowly, organically, but now we reach more than 40 countries with more than 180 citizens from different disciplines, many different disciplines, from chefs to policymakers and so on, designers, artists. It's not just about design, but like a huge understanding of what is design. And this has been our inspiration along the process. That is a poem prayer from Audrey Time that I discovered through our friends from Internet-Based Media, that it says, when we see Internet of Things, let's make it an Internet of Beings, and from virtual reality, let's make it a shared reality, and from machine learning, let's make it a collaborative learning, from user experience, let's make it about human experience, and when we hear the singularity is near, let us remember that the plurality is here. And this makes sense every time more. Another topic I would like to talk is decentralized education, how nowadays we can shift from universities to the digital world to open source platforms. And in this case, it was done with the Platt Institute. And we're reflecting on the future candy, what makes a candy to be a candy, with students from Study Abroad Elizaba. And they were playing and exploring how a candy can be a functional food, how a candy can be huge or disgusting or even poisonous, right? And have a purpose on life. And then it was nice because it was a way of integrating food as insects, but also to create new products as a candy that makes you awake instead of a coffee. And with every layer, it's awakening your senses, right? And talking about education, this is an action that talks about non-human centered design that would be a counter-trend that runs away from the user-centered design perspective that we learn in schools and universities. It's made with Food Cultura Foundation and Random Happiness, and we're inviting people to become an object, not just to emphasize with humans, but with objects itself from the archive of Food Cultura. And then they transform during 1 week into these objects, and we're going to run our 5th edition. I can explain you more later. But that means that we need to make a shift on our educational systems. It's not one direction. It's not something exclusive. It's inclusive. And this is an awakening call for everyone in many senses. So talking about awakening call, this piece is called Awake. And I invite you to think about different ways of transformation and adaptability to change, as could be popcorn. In this case, are reproduced popcorns like this one that are not, but it's a symbol of change and how can we adapt to it. So thank you very much. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Nicole. That was lovely. I wanted to, only one of the things that you talked about that really fascinate me personally is this concept of non-human centered design, which is which is something that I embrace fully. You know, we have talked about this, but it's also quite controversial at the moment. We are just coming out of 20 years of user-centered design. So a question to the audience, maybe you can write your thoughts in the chat room. What do you guys think about non-human centered design? How do you understand it? How do you interpret it? What are your thoughts about it? So while you write your answers in the chat room, I'm going to ask a question to Professor Xing. Professor, how has food design, or actually food, how has food changed the product design or industrial design discipline? For example, what has food brought to the perception of, to the practice of, and to the teachings of product design and industrial design?
Thank you.
好的，谢谢谢谢。这个问题呢，因为这几年的这个教学，我也在思考。我觉得实物设计最大的一个改革呢，是因为实物设计它没有任何的门槛，因为实物设计完全在我们的整个生活上，它都是每一天我们都可以看到和摸到的。所以呢，我觉得在工业设计里面呢，可能原来对产品设计也好，工业设计也好，我们是有一定的距离的。但是实物设计呢，拉近了非常多的这个距离，我们所有人都可以是实物设计师。小到可能是我们给我们的亲人盛一碗米饭，或者是一个小小的饼干上我们挤上一个漂亮的奶油，甚至是一个小小的我们很多的一些小的食品，我们进行一个装饰，都可以去表达我们的一些想法。所以我觉得呢，实物设计它拉近了很多人的这个距离，同时呢，我觉得它是一个很好的材质，我们可以用实物设计用这种材质去做非常多的尝试。同时，我们的同学呢，也可以用这个材料去把设计融入到我们的生活每一分钟每一秒，甚至可以去做非常多的分享。这个是我对实物设计的一些理解。谢谢。
So much, Professor. I completely agree with you. I loved your reply. Just in case, guys, some of you hasn't figured it out, at the bottom of this VOOV meeting, there is a button that says interpretation, and you can click there to hear either Chinese, the simultaneous translation, either Chinese or English, just in case you haven't seen it. Okay, thank you so much. Let's see. So I think this was an answer for people's view on non-human-centered design. I suppose to better understand the relation between nature and human, we do need non-human-centered vision. I like that view. And a question for Professor Xing. Could you please tell me the impact on food and environment if food design is not centered on people? Interesting. Would you like to answer?
是的，因为其实我们呢，现在越来越多的关注到食物本身的意义。我觉得万物皆有灵，食物的本身它也是有一个自己的内在的，所以我觉得不以人为设计呢，我觉得这个想法是非常非常有意思的。有的时候我们在遵从食物的同时，做食物本身的研究，可能我们可以发现更多的不同维度的这样一个理念。所以我觉得呢，在研究食物的本身的时候，我们可能会做很多可持续化的一些未来的一些包括世界环保啊、碳排放啊这些问题的研究。所以在我的实践中呢，我们也做了很多这样子的努力，希望把食物设计，包括我们食物设计外延的一些产品。甚至是一些周边的一些衍生产品都会做这种可持续性的发展研究，用这种方式去将食物的本身可能更多的遵循回食物的本质，再从本质出发找到食物自己的特性，反过来可能会给我们的人类做出更好的一些反馈或者是启发，这是我的理解，谢谢。
Thank you. I love it. Yes, and one thing about reading again the question, first of all, is not that we are proposing that food design is not human-centered design, is not human-centered, but it is one perspective for all design, not just food design, and it is one option. And to me, what is interesting, for example, about the concept of non-human centered design is that it's not like we are ignoring human beings, but it's like besides human beings, at the center, we also put the environment, the planet, society at large, health, etc., etc. Brilliant. So with this, I would go to our next speaker, Chef Lee. And Lee, whenever you are ready, you can share your screen and take it away.
And yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, you're
Okay.
on.
Well, that's me. Yeah, that's a roughly personal introduction. Yeah, I'm in Dali of Yunnan. I'm collaborating with the Good Food Foundation of China, and soonly I will open my own restaurant. And here's the topic I'm going to talk about today: chef leadership. So we can see this picture, and this, what can you get from this? What type of information you can get from this picture? A uniform seems like someone in it, but it's not. Yeah, that's what I think of the chefs in the time, because a lot of chefs they are only a group of people who are able to cook, but without concept, without thought. And that's why it make me want to share the topic, chef's leadership. And around this topic, there are 4 parts of it, which is my personal understanding, yeah, as a barriers for the chefs in nowadays. Lack of information, resource, and awareness. Yeah. A lot of chefs, they don't really spend enough time to knowing what's happening outside of the world or outside of the country. Yeah, so all they focus on is the work in the kitchen, the flavor of the dish, and lack of the connection with farmer, with the customer. Yeah, that's understanding easily, and wastage problem become bigger issue in nowadays. So here's the solution from my personal side. Well, I would share how to build up the modern menu concept and build up the relationship with the farmers and consumers. Also, how to deal with the wastage properly. Here, yeah, around how to build up modern menu concept. See, I want to focus on the first part, which is how to be yourself. As a chef, I think you must know the purpose or what's the motivation to make you to be a chef, and what would you like to be, and what type of menu concept you support. What's your belief, such thing. So, and about other issue like researching, analysis, design. Yeah, that's kind of teamwork. But first of all, you must know who are you. And build up relationship with farmers. That's another issue for now, because a lot of chefs, they don't even know where's the ingredients from, and what kind of situation or environment the ingredients grew up or being planted. So that's the key, how to build up the relationship with farmers. Yeah, in the picture, that's me in Dali. I visit so many organic farm and work with farmer. So at the same time, I learned a lot myself. Communicate with customers, it really helps us to understand more about people, about market, even about our own problem about dishes. So making friends with customer and communicate with them properly is another way to help us to progress. See, the wastage is a big issue now all over the world. So how can we dealing with all the wastage in proper way? The first of all is use everything of the ingredients. Yeah, try not waste anything. Use 100% of the ingredient. So garbage classification, everyone knows, and more and more people start doing it. Compost and enzyme is a new issue for chefs, mostly. I know more and more chefs, they know how to dealing with those wastage from the kitchen. But still, we need even more chefs join the group to share the experience, how to make our wastage of the kitchen to be a nutrition back to the ground. Yeah, when we talk about future, here's the 3 words I can offer. Plant-based. Yeah, I believe so. In the future, people's plate gonna change a lot. We're gonna have more plant ingredients rather than meat. Diversified and sustainable. Yeah, I think that's the trend which is happening now. Not only good for us, also good for the earth. Here we go. Yeah, that's all I want to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lee. I was curious to hear more from you. I'm guessing the audience as well. Tell me more about these concept exactly with this image, the first image that you showed. Tell me more about this concept of of how you see the chef today. You mentioned, an empty uniform. You mentioned how you see many chefs today lacking thoughts or concepts, in your words. Tell me more about that. Why is that happening? Why is it you think, and what can we do to change it?
Yeah, according to my experience, because a lot of people, the reason they become a chef only because they couldn't find another, the better job to live. So that's why so many people, they pick the chef because it's quite an easy career to start. And secondly, most culinary school, they focus on the dish, the cooking skill, but ignore the part of the chef's leadership, which is what chefs can do outside of the kitchen. Chefs, they play quite important role in nowadays outside of the kitchen, because we actually connect the farm, connect the land, and also connect to the market, to the customer. So we are the messenger to pass. Yeah.
I'm taking notes. I love this concept of the chef working outside of the kitchen as a messenger. You're absolutely right. We are still living in this in a world where most chefs don't have that view yet of the impact that they can have outside of the kitchen, outside of the plate. Absolutely. We have a question from Federica. In your opinion, in this period, how does the absence of interaction, and I guess, the pandemic, what the world is living, how does the absence of interaction between chefs and users influence the chef's world?
I think it's also the awareness and the communication is the key to change the situation. Yeah.
Awareness from the part of the chefs themselves, and communication.
From the chef themselves. Our chef. I'm the chef too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what do you think that chefs can do in this moment where you guys lose the interaction with users?
Well, first of all, I think in each country we have our own organization, and that's the quickest way to change the mind and help chefs ourselves. That's the best way and the quickest way. And secondly, we need experiment and work of the kitchen to do things, to make things happen, not only just talk or think. Yeah.
I love that, and I think it's good for us because creativity and thinking about alternative solutions seems to be a very specific trait for the human beings, for us as a race in general. So we have seen that in this year where we all had we all had to rethink ourselves. Most of us did, and in gastronomy as well, we have seen many beautiful things. We have still a few moments dedicated to you, Lee, and I want to make sure that we get as much of your thoughts, as many of your thoughts out as possible. I'm intrigued by what you said about the importance of chefs knowing who they are. You said, but who are you? Tell me more about this. How can a chef know who they are? I guess in the I am a chef and I'm cooking for people area, and how does knowing who I am as a chef influence what I do?
See, the easiest way is think this way. Why do you want to be a chef? So all you want is making money or a cooking skill, or other than that, you want to be someone which is helpful for the people, for more people. I mean, the whole human being, the earth, right? So you got to ask yourself, like, the motivation, the passionate, what supports you to be a chef for so many years? You got to find the answer from yourself. If your answer is, I don't know, no, then sorry. You got to be, you need training again. Yeah, back to school. But your answer is yes. Yeah, there's something more I want to do. Then find out, what's next step, and keep moving forward. Don't stop.
I love it, and this is how I interpret it. And tell me if this is how you see it as well. If I come to, let's say, work in your kitchen, and I start as a commis chef, for example, and you are interviewing me, and you ask me, okay, but who are you? Why do you want to be a chef? And I am able to give you my own personal answer of the values and meanings that I see in this job. What the benefit that I see for a kitchen is that you have, I don't know, 10, 20 chefs that, yes, all have a very specific assignment most of the time, meat, I don't know, salad, whatever, but they all can bring their own individuality and their own passion. And so that melting pot of beauty, of, as you call them, thoughts and concept and creativity, and wanting to be there, I guess it has a very strong outcome in what the kitchen produces every day. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. Because if a chef, if my team full of that type of thinking chef, I would imagine how amazing my dishes are. So also how much the passionate, the love can consumers feel. Yeah, that makes huge difference.
I love it, and I totally agree. Thank you so much, Lee. So before we go to our next presentation, I wanted to have another quick question, and this question would be for Jasper. Jasper, how do you? Let me close this thing. One moment. Close. Okay. How do you place people and their experience? So we are on the same line of thought. By the way, yes, Lee, you can unshare your screen if you want to. So Jasper, how do you place people and their experience in your creative process? In other words, what is the relevance of people's final experience during your creative process?
That's a good question. Thank you. I think people are are the starting point. For me, each moment where you connect with people and you tell your purpose as a chef or as a designer, you connect with your audience or your guests. And I think the job for a chef or a designer is to connect with those customers or guests and bring them a story, and they will go home with a new story. So I think as a chef you have to create a starting point for a story for your guests. So you create a collective kind of story. So yeah, I think that's the most important job for a designer, a chef, artist. We can create experiences and stories that will get the world to the next level. And if a lot of people engage with those stories, you can create a collective story. And collective stories are the ones that will bring us to the next level in the world, I think.
What is the next level? I cannot ask you that now.
Yes. Well, in my opinion, it's a world where everything is hyper local. Money is not as important as it is now. Yeah, it's all about empathy, sharing food with each other, circularity, and the world is in the center and not human beings.
I love it. I won the next level yesterday. Yes, I can't wait.
境界状态非常好哎，迫不及待想要听。
Smaller or medium-sized steps towards that more and more. So love it. Thank you, Jasper. Okay, people. Our next speaker is Vanessa Redondo. Vanessa, whenever you're ready, if you want to share your screen and give us your thoughts. Thank you.
Oh, hello. Okay. Oh, wait, it doesn't allow me now.
Don't worry.
What?
Take your time.
Wait, no, it tells me leave meeting, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, now. What is happening?
There you are.
Doesn't let me? Yeah, okay. Here I am. Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
So,
Go for it.
perfect. So I founded We Crave. It's an experience design studio in Madrid, and we like to define ourselves saying we create memories and emotions through gastronomy, installations, and artifacts. And our aim has always been, me as the founder and the whole team, to give back emotions and sensations to a world that is continuously walking through the digital era. We are always looking for these three aspects: constant exploration, deep emotive interaction, and timeless memories. As a team and also as the result of what we create in the users. So we work in three fields, or we apply this in three fields: food design, installations, and artifacts. Food design is where we create bespoke or made-to-measure gastronomic experiences and to offer people a new way of enjoying food and to break paradigms that are already established in society. We also work in artifacts. This doesn't want to work. Where we craft objects, combining design and art into functionality, so we can communicate powerful message. We actually focus more on food design or elements done for, give me a second. There's like a computer repeating my audio.
No problem. I actually ate from the plate that Vanessa is showing now. there is between the textile, there is a plate over there that kind of swings, and I actually ate from those plates while at a dinner that she organized, and it was an excellent experience that I particularly enjoyed. Very, what's the word? It was an experience that gave a lot back. Okay, you are in full screen now, Vanessa.
Ah, yes. Well, we cannot see the videos, but and the other field we work is installations, where we create environments to translate messages, mostly for brands, but to create a new way to relate the brand and the customer in a more sensory way. So what I'm going to show you today, it's projects that include all these three fields, so for which we design an installation, food experience, and of course the artifacts. So the first one is Tepui. It was inspired by this connection, or to address this connection of humanity and nature. We created with a Venezuelan chef, Adriana Urbina, and we wanted to bring to the table not only the idea to look back to our roots, but only all the nature that you can find in the Amazonian rainforest in Venezuela. The name Tepui came from these mountains that you see, which are the oldest rock formations on Earth, and they still have their own ecosystem and their own plants. So the chef was working with the ingredients you can find here, and this is the installation we created, where we wanted to bring to the space. We couldn't bring a huge mountain, but we wanted to bring a section, that talks about the different layers that form these mountains, the tepuis, and which kind of nature you can find. So this was it was a really big piece, around 100 kilos around our space. And for food design, we inspired for the menu. As I said, the chef wanted to bring all the aromas and colors and textures on the Amazonian to the table. So it was really new for the European public. And this was the beginning. We call it Waku Pimenton. So we used a lot of indigenous words for naming each part of the experience. So this was a travel. So it was you could see you had like an instrument to put some powder on the bite, a rock that was looking like a brush to put some oil on the bites. So this is the way that people interacted. And also the plate, you can see here, we made it with soil, so it's completely degradable. And after you use it, you can actually put it back in the garden and it will go back to where it come from. We also, during the experience, wanted people to relate of how the indigenous tribe find that food in the nature. So we work with elements as water, fire, and hunting, for example. And this was the water. So the food was on top, and you can pour the liquid in the middle. It was a ceviche. So the idea was for people to eat it with their hands, take the fish out of the net and put it back in the sauce, and make them conscious of that idea of fishing. Also, we wanted to talk about the beliefs and the culture of the Amazonian tribe. So we created this dish. It's called Guanapitonin, which means healing herb, and it's actually a mango gazpacho. But the container was made with leather and porcelain, so the leather disappears in the oven. And because usually they take it in natural shelves, and we wanted to simulate that with the with the vessel. And of course, it had all the gastronomic idea of the smoke coming out of it to give that sense of magic, Yeah, this is more of this experience. So as you can see, well, this is a model, but people in the experience had to eat with their hands. And this was, for example, non, that means earth. And we wanted them to we had different ingredients on the table on an actual mini farm, or let's say like a pot. And they had to cut them and put them in their plate and mix them and eat with the lettuce or with the palm trees leaves. This is the video, but I don't know how with time, and I have a video that I would really like to show. This is another experience. It's called Siku, and it was made for give or to raise awareness about ice. Not only ice as something that gives you freshness, but ice as a natural phenomenon, as something that has a texture that creates reflex through when light goes through it. And we wanted people to understand that the ice it's formed, but it also melts away. It also goes away. And so we created an installation with the 3 big pieces of ice, 1 meter by 50, and each part of the installation was devoted to one of the senses. So you could see the light, or the sight, the sound, the touch. And I don't know if you can see it in this picture, but the ice came in really huge pieces and it was melting, and you can see all the water that was creating underneath the installation. And we did this because we wanted to create awareness not only of the ice as a beautiful material, but also the idea of the global warming, and what is happening in the North Pole, that I think people is not capable of seeing it. And these were 200 kilos pieces of ice, and they melted in around 3 hours, which is fast. And I think people was able to come to an experience and see how fast this is happening if we don't do something about it. So, for example, you could see this slide. The installation was interactive. So when you got close to the ice, because you wanted to touch it as a normal person would do, they activated different parts, and this was the light coming through the ice, or when you touch it, it makes sounds as when the ice is breaking, for example. And it's amazing how drive people is to touch, how attracted they are to touch ice, because it's quite transparent and beautiful, and I think it's interesting. And also, of course, we included the food design part, where we mix each part of the installation with a specific ice cream proposal. So people can come into the space, see the installation, but they can also try how the ice smell, or they could try how the light of the ice will feel. This was the flavor for the smell of the ice. It was quite fresh. It was a yogurt ice cream with beetroot, granita, and rhubarb, and it was a smoke with pine wood. So it was interesting for people to see an ice cream being smoke, but still have all that freshness in the flavor as the ice have. And we also created different artifacts for people to eat. We want them to feel that they were eating from the ice itself. So they were eating ice cream from the ice. And we developed shapes that you could have in your hand, and you could remember the idea of just having a normal ice cream in a cone, but in something that was really fragile and delicate as a glass piece, and also as the ice and as the situation with the global warming. This is another example. They were all made to fit in your hand, so quite small, and be eaten basically with this was the ice cream for sight. So we wanted something quite, well, like to get the attention of the people with a black and a white ice cream. And it was black sesame ice cream with yuzu, actually. This is a experience, a more recent experience we created during the COVID. In Madrid, we spent 5 months in home confinement. And after 2 months, we as a team were really
一个团队2个月的时间，我们是希望能够帮人们做一些事情，但那时候我们其实可能还不知道到底怎么样去给人们这种体验。我们呢就
but something that we could send home in a box and that the food was already made. And also we wanted to have a really low price due to the situation that everyone was living economically. And we wanted to be for 2 people. So to make or reinforce the idea of sharing a different moment, even though we were quarantined in our homes, but change the scenario that we were living with someone that we were there all day, no? And also make people conscious of 3 subjects. So we did 3 different versions of this intimate experience that it's called. We talk about space, and the idea was for people to understand what a space was. So every box came with a little essay about how can you relate to space, or how can you understand the space, because we wanted to give people topics that were difficult in the moment, and I think space was one of them, redefining a space. And in this one, we wanted people to create a getaway, no? So in order to make a We Crave experience at home, we needed 3 elements. We needed installation, we needed food, and we needed interaction. So we send them a box with this lead tooth and some pieces so they can arrange a shape in their home, and the idea was for them to choose the best spot that they like and create like a little bubble inside home, even though that we were confined. So they had this lead wire, and of course everyone created something different, but this was our proposal. For food, we did a tasting of cheese with different flavors, and the idea was to like layer them like a tower and play around with all the flavors. And we always send a drink that was made by various ingredients. This one had, for example, a mint spray, and you could also have it alcoholic or not alcoholic. We thought it was important, so even kids or anyone could do this experience at home during quarantine. We also talk about time and the idea of redefining the perception of time, because during the COVID, I think time went by too slowly or too fast, and it was something difficult for people to understand. And for example, for this installation, we send them some special inks to paint a drawing, and then they will put them into alcohol, and they have to wait hours and see how the pigments decompose. It's called chromatography, but it's an interesting process to see. For the food, we created something that also give people the awareness of time. We made a candle, a butter candle. So the only way to eat it was actually to light it up and wait for it to melt it. And then you had different sauces and salts to put on the bread. And we had for the drink, we had a smoked drink that it a long time to prepare. You had to mix different alcohols to make a vermouth blend and then smoke it and then put the garnish, because we wanted people to actually think about time or use this time to not just to be aware of the weight in things, no? And of course, we wanted to talk about disconnect instead of disconnection, because we were too connect. We were all in Zoom meetings, in video calls, and even though we felt maybe alone at home, I think we needed to disconnect from the news, from the computer, and so we created this version of the kit. And the idea was the installation was 3 rings, and it came with a range of dry flowers and for them to assemble them. So it was like a mobile, and actually this is a really meticulous work to assemble flowers into a circle. So it's a good way to disconnect, and after that they will smell, and they will be not only decoration, but also it will give a different sense to the space. And for the food, it was the only one where we made them cook, not something complicated, but we made them melt the chocolate and then use different toppings and create shapes and put it back in the fridge and wait for it. Always looking for that idea of doing something with your hands and not being connected to the internet during quarantine. And for the drink, we chose something more relaxed. It was a chai tea mixed, but this one came with the picture you saw at the beginning. So it came with a sugar and cinnamon scrub. And the idea was that you put that scrub in your lips and then you take the tea. So it was only black tea and milk, and actually the chai mix was in the scrub. So this was that project.
Vanessa, about maybe 1 more minute.
Okay, so I will talk about Alhambra. We created this for the beer in order to taste the different notes. And for this one, we actually, instead of designing, we designed these structures. It were fountains of food. And people had to grab the bites from the wall and then put it in the fountain to discover the different notes of the beer. And so we focus more on designing the container, but an edible one. So this one was like a half tube, so you can put the caramel inside. This one was, for example, a foie gras sphere. Underneath was hard, but on top was soft. And you put it through a cascade of coconut powder, and it covered it up. And then you can eat it. So you can see were really small bites. And this one was a cake with a hard surface underneath in order to smoke it. No, I don't know if I have the video here. If we have time, we see it, and if not, we.
How long is it?
There it is. Yeah. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I loved it. I love all of your work. And I think I was especially intrigued by something that we see a lot less often. Actually, I've probably never seen it. You were able to give people So you just pause your screen. So pause your screen share. So maybe you want to unscreen. Sorry, you want to unshare. Anyway, you were able to give people at home the opportunity of not just eating food for a certain experience, not just the drink, etc., but you gave them the opportunity of creating a space with the.
Sorry, I cannot stop the. No, now I can. Yes. Can you see me? No.
We still see your screen.
Stop share. Yes. Okay.
That's it. Okay. But you were able to allow people to create a space at home. And that is a type of intervention that I haven't seen earlier. I find it's genius. Well done to you. So I wanted to ask a short question, a quick question to Nicole. Nicole and Vanessa, you have a few things in common in your practice. So Nicole, how do you describe the intersection between food, art, and design?
It's an interesting question because I think it's an exploration, constant exploration. And a playground actually, because everyone has their own vision, and it's nice how can we shift perspectives from a culinary perspective, from an art perspective, and one day we consider like our concerns come from one place and then they merge with other disciplines. So I think that it's a starting point from my vision to something bigger and wider.
Definitely. I love it. Thank you so much. A starting point. Vanessa, I almost forgot. We had a question from ZZ in the audience that I think it's for you. And I think it's a simple question, but I think it could open doors, a Pandora's box for food designers, right? And the question is, are you a chef or a designer?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'm a creative. I'm a designer more than a chef. I have a passion for food. I love working with food, and I love doing it in the experience format because I'm able actually to see people's reaction. With Crave, Francesca has been here. It's the team that designs the experience, the one that serves the food. And I think this is really important for us because everything we create, the tableware, the menu that we do with the chef, the instruments, the installation, then we are able to actually leave it. We cannot sit on the table. I mean, we have done it a few times, but usually we're giving it to people. But being close to them, seeing them play with the objects, the reaction. I like the food. I don't like the food. Or sometimes, in essence, we had one of the persons actually crying in the moment of one of the dishes because it reminded her not only the setup but also the recipe and the smell to her grandmother that had died like a week before. And I think. I don't know. I'm a designer because I do cook a lot, but yes, but not professional. And what I love and the reason why we Crave exists is because I want to bring all the people in the table and collaborate. No, so for me, it's really important that the chef tell me these ingredients for me has this feeling, and then I will say, well, this material for me has this feeling, or this shape give me this emotion, no? And the chef tells me, so I'm gonna plate it like this, and I'm gonna do it like that. So I know sometimes our work looks more like gastronomy more than design, but actually it's a nice. I think we have fine people that likes to collaborate, chefs and our team, and we are quite open to shift, to let some things go and actually let the chef also lead the experience, even though we are a design studio.
Definitely. And I mean, from my perspective, which, okay, it's an educated perspective, but I think it's clear to see from what you have just presented to us that your work does not mainly look like astronomy. It's very clear the two components, food and design, whatever, space design, product design, whatever, are very clear. And you gave us a beautiful explanation of how you guys work at We Crave Design, which explains to the world and really showcases how food design is never done by, the food designer rarely is just a chef. Sorry, the food designer rarely is someone who is both a chef and a designer. Most of the time, it's a team. So that's how it's done. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Our next speakers, we are doing okay with time, but I want to speed it up a little bit. Our next speaker is Professor Xing Penghua, more or less, I hope. And Professor, please, the floor is yours. Whenever you want to start.
好的。Okay?
Yeah, we see the screen.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. 今天呢，我给大家分享的呢是实物设计探索与市场的策划分享。与以上的各位嘉宾可能演讲的内容有点不同。我可能更多的呢是因为我是在大学任教，所以呢在这方面呢我们做了很多就是跟学生之间对实物设计的一些探索，现在分享实物设计的一个欣赏，去做了一些分析，然后呢也结合了呢我服务于市场的一些项目，跟大家做一个简单的分享。这个呢是我对，然后我现在是学校的一个产品设计系的老师，我曾经在法国也学过这个产品设计，所以拿的是法国的这个设计师的文凭，同时我也做一些空间设计的这个项目。然后今天呢，我会从下面3个方面跟大家做一个分享。第一个是我们对食品的一个策划，一个现状的分析，然后第二个是我们的一些商业案例的策划，还有最后就是我们在学校的一些课程的一些分享。首先呢，我们知道实物设计呢，我们现在就是把整个看成是一种非常愉悦的舌尖上的一种设计的一个创意。但是吃呢，在我们当下社会已经发生了很多不同，它已经不单单只是满足于我们现在生理的一个需求，更多时候呢是一种很情感化的一种这样子的一种需求。所以我们如何把一个食物在情感化的设计提升服务上去把它加入新的设计元素，这是我们是希望去表达的。在最基础的时候呢，食物的3要素可能对我们大家来说是色香味，这也是我们最基础对食物的一个认知。但是现在的一个市场需求，包括现在大家的一个不同的一种需要吧，然后我们可以把这色香味衍生成为一种意形，还有一种营养，我们把这个归为一个新的一个趋势。然后现在呢，全世界的趋势可能对于中国的市场来说，更多的呢应该是这种无国界的，然后是创意型的，还有一个未来的可持续就是素食，包括当下的疫情的一个现状，素食在整个中国都已经开始突飞猛进的一个发展的过程中。然后在我们的视觉系统上，我们可以看到食物设计它是有色彩的表情的。下面这一排呢是一个 Sense 这个品牌的蛋糕，它通过色彩，通过这种不同的这种搭配，然后和展现，把这种色彩的表情用在我们的食物展示上。然后在这样市场的一个大的环境下，它非常的有一个很好的吸睛的一个效果。然后呢，在造型上呢，我们现在也概括成了一个是我们说的形，就是一个颜值，一个外观，然后意就是一个气氛。我们刚才说的以食物为中心，然后在食物周围我们要给它一个这样子的一个环境。所以在形上呢，我们也可以分为平面、立面，然后在这个气氛上呢，有这个环境，还有一个意境的一个统一。首先在这个地方呢，我们可以分享一下我们有一些平面上的一些视觉上的一些系统，可以让我们在平面上对食物设计有一种形的一种阐释。 然后在立体的形上呢，我们也看到这个案例，就是把一些植物性的东西用鸡蛋的这种形式，但是用非鸡蛋的方式进行一些立体的塑形，然后在这上面有些立面的一些造型，然后包括我们一些很好的一些法式的甜点，也是在立面的形上做了很多的研究。那对于我们来说呢，中国呢，有一个大董这个品牌，它会把很多这个形式。通过一些东方的一些文化，包括我们说像插花的文化进行一些展示，在这个上面呢，我们突出的是一种立面的形。然后环境呢，就是在我们一些食品上有一些衬托的作用，使整个食品制造出一个氛围，让我们的在吃食品的同时可以感受到一种意境的美。然后这个也是大董的，他把一个菜式做成了一个中国意境菜。把一个简单的一些可能有中式口味的东西，用西方或者是说意境的展现方式把它呈现出来，完全制造一种意境上的氛围。这个呢是我一个好朋友的一个品牌，一个 Sense 的蛋糕品牌。然后这个呢就是中国的传统的甜品，叫月饼。但是我们知道中国的月饼就是在中秋节的时候我们会食用，但这个月饼呢我们会是很传统的造型。但是现在他们把月饼进行了一个改良，更多的去吸引现在当下的年轻人去使用。所以在这个展示上呢，他把一个简单的月饼设计成了一个非常国际融合的一种体现。然后在展示上呢，也会附有一些很小的包括是这些很暖心的一些小的文章。
And it will give some descriptions with very poetic words. And it actually has a good combination of traditional Chinese culture and international culture. So when the Mid-Autumn Festival comes, it's
同时呢，我们说食物设计还有一些是主题性的设计，在这个地方我们也可以看到一些很有名的案例。像这个呢，一些小的这些模块化的一些设计，它可以把整个食品设计的主题带到一个新的功能上去。它已经不单单是一个简单的食品，它是一个非常可以在情感需求上去安慰大家的一种新的功能的这样子的一个食品。同时呢，食品还有一些趣味上的设计，这个也是一个大的趋势。在我们吃这个食品的同时，它有一些非常有趣的一些体验。把它当成一种游戏式的一样的体验，然后同时我们也可以看到这种文化的这种交互式的一种食品设计，像日式的这种枯山水，把一些简单的一个食品做成了一种很好的交互。同时食品设计还有一些功能性食品的一些研发，有这种治愈糖尿病病人呐，或者是说自闭症儿童的这样子的一种对食品本身进行一些元素上的分析，去制造出一些新的可能性。第二个呢，我想分析一下我们在商业上的一个案例。这个呢是我们之前这个品牌是我一个非常好的朋友，一个素食的品牌，现在已经是在广州是非常有名，甚至是全国都很有名的一个素食的品牌，叫 Mace。他说他邀请我进入一个主创的团队，然后这个品牌呢，其实在推广一个素食，一个未来的这样子的一个趋势。那这个品牌呢，其实坐落在广州一个地标性的一个建筑 K11， 然后上面有2万的写字楼的人群，然后他们在这个办公的像实时生理里头，怎么样可以慢下来去享受食物本身带给大家的一种
we try to
去回归到自然，这是我们
help
想打
them to
造的
take
一
time
个
to
方
enjoy
向。
a natural and healthy meal.
所以呢，在这个地方，我们希望更多的是
So
我们店里
we
吃
hope
饭的
that
客人可以在这个
our
里面感受
customers
到
can
食物它
enjoy
本身的意义，去更多的体会
the
这个植
essence
物
of
性的
food
食物是怎么样
and
给诠释
especially
出来。
the
同时
vegetable
它一
and
定是要去
plant-based
宗教化
cuisines.
的，而且是一种健康的饮食。
And
因
it
为在
should be
中国素
healthy.
食是刚刚的起步，有很多的素食
And
者他
because
可能
in
并不
China
是
the
说为了
vegetarian
健
is
康或者什么
has
去
just
长期的
kicked
吃
off
素，
in
但是我
China.
们希望是在年轻人里面去
So we
推
hope
广这
that
个
more and
素
more
食的饮
youngsters
食，
would
让这
adopt
个世
this
界的
kind of
未来可能更
lifestyle
加的环保，或者是说我们未来
and
的这种
to
饮食
help
的
the
趋
world
势更加
become
的
more
健康。所以在这个
healthy
概念里面呢，
and
我们
have
用到
a
的
more
所有元
environmental
素
friendly
都是可
future.
持续的。因为
And
一个素
those
食是最好的减少这个碳
materials
排
we
放、保
use
护环
are
境的一个很
sustainable
有力的一个手
because
段。
it is
所以
an
包括
important
我
way
们
to
的
reduce
VI 设
carbon
计、SI 设
emissions
计，
and
包括我
protect
们的
the
所有的
world
包装用
environment.
的都是
And
这
the
种可持
delivery
续性发展的
packaging
材料。
are
我们的打
sustainable.
包盒用的是玉米淀粉去制作的，
and it's made of corn starch. So they are very environmental friendly.
那我们这里中国有2家店，一个在武汉，一个在广州。我们用了2个不同的概念，一个是大地的概念，一个是植物脉络的概念去诠释我们这个空间的设计。
First and the second is the texture of plant. And here is in Guangzhou. It's inspired by the plant texture, and then in Wuhan it is inspired by the earth. And basically in Wuhan we can see that the metal windows.
然后用这种方式做
It's
一个
like
沉
the
浸式的
earth
体验和
mountains.
介绍。
It can create an immersive experience
沉浸
for
式
the
的体验呢，也是
customers.
我们一个非常注重的一个环节。
And
所以
this
在
is a
空
very
间上我们做
important
到了与
thing
大
that
地
we
的
pay
这种一
attention
脉
to
相
when
承
we
的感觉。
inventing the restaurant.
这个呢是广州 K11的店面，
And
我们
this
可以
is
看到
the
上面像藤蔓一
restaurant
样
based
在
in
飘过的
Guangzhou
这
in
个
K11.
金属
And you
的这
can
个
see
结
on the
构，
top
然
of
后
the
走到里
building,
面呢，我们做了一个叶脉式的一个设计，把
it's
整
like
个
the
空间
leaf.
我
The
们的客人
context,
进来以后是有非常
the
好的一个
text.
沉浸式的体验。同时呢，我们用到的餐具，所有的细节都会让大家无时无刻的在感受植物的美。然后我们这个餐具也是叶脉的形状，然后所有的东西，所有的细节，包括我们的盘子也是不规则的鹅卵石形，其实都希望诠释这个大自然的对大自然的一种敬畏，对植物这种食材的一种喜好，或者是我们未来一个发展的趋势。然后在呈现上呢，我们也考虑到就是年轻人希望打破很多的传统概念，所以这个地方我们在呈现上呢用了非常多的艺术手段。像这个展示它不是一般的一些盘子，是我们用红酒的回收红酒的瓶子去把它热熔以后成为了一个这样的器皿去呈现我们这一道菜式。这些呢也是在传递我们说的视觉的一些味道，因为我们现在非常多的年轻人他还是视觉化的一个欣赏的角度，所有的东西它确实要有很好的卖相才能很好的吸引年轻人去尝试。那同时素食呢，我们也会用到大量的这种植物性的食材，像植物肉做出来的这些不同的口味，让所有的人在他们平时的饮食习惯中在素食也能找到，甚至吃完以后他很惊叹素食我们可以做成这个样子的一个味道。所以在展现上我们也做了很多不一样的一个呈现。同时我们也是一个国际化的，在这个设计上呢可能用到了很多这种年轻人们喜欢的元素，但是一定是国际融合的方式，把很多不同的方式用不同的食材进行一个组合。色彩搭配上呢可能也会有非常多的一些尝试，然后把一些很传统的食材或者是进口的食材或者全世界的食材我们去把它做一个整合，也会用到很多这种超级食材。所以在健康的理念也好，在食材本身我们也会做一些很好的推广。然后这样子的展示呢，像右边这个我们叫做美术盒子，当我们这个盒子我们的客人看到这个菜的时候呢，我们的服务员会在他面前轻轻的划开这个盒盖，让这个食物的本身就是一个沉浸式的展示，食物本身让我们在吃它之前就有一个非常对大自然敬畏的心，或者很仪式感的方式去体会它的含义。然后在食物的一个展示上，我们也会做很多一些非常有趣的一些尝试去展示我们的食物。所以呢，这个案例呢也为我们赢得了非常多的包括餐饮业、包括空间设计的一些大奖。然后最后我想分享一下我在学校的这个课程。这个课程其实我很希望用食物设计这种材料去作为我一个课程的内容，让我们的同学们没有任何的门槛，甚至是随手可得的材料，他们就可以去做很多的这种尝试。那我的学生们很多呢，他之前都是没有进过厨房的，甚至没有做过菜的，所以在这个课程里面呢，我是会用烘焙的方式去做一个简单的呈现。然后呢，我们的同学们在短短的几周内从零开始，从没有进过厨房开始，到最后他们可以用植物设计去表达自己的概念，表达自己的分享。我觉得这是非常让我兴奋的一件事情。所以我说我们一起来玩食物就是一个这样的概念这些都是我们同学们的一些作品。 在这个里面，他们可以去做很好的分享，可以用这个去做一些批判性的表达，也可以做一些艺术的方式的表达。右上角我们可以看到，每一次我们这个课程最后的 presentation 是一个巨大的 party， 我们会对外开放，所有的人可以过来先欣赏，然后去品尝大家设计的食物，然后最后用我们分发的一些餐具进行投票，做一个回收。然后每一年这个时候呢，都是我们一个很开心的一个 party。这个呢，也是我们同学们用这种食物造型，我们用曲奇饼去做了一种这样子很有中国特色的，像我们一些新的城市发展会拆除一些房子，用这种方式去把一个要拆除的房子用曲奇饼的方式表达出来。当我们在做 party 的时候，会拿小锤子把它锤掉，然后我们的观众可以在这里面去捡里面曲奇做的小砖头去进行品尝。这里看到的所有东西都是可以吃的。然后在这个过程中呢，我们也要求大家用最好的一些食材，天然的食材去诠释它。这个呢也是我们用这种马卡龙的方式，但是做出不同的造型。然后这个叫做马卡龙森林，我们这个同学把马卡龙做成像小蘑菇的形状，然后去把它组成了一个这样子的一种装置的展现。同时呢，我们的同学们也会喜欢用这个食物造型去诠释我们的文化。像广州呢，是我们说食在广州，像中国在广州来说，对吃是很有讲究的，我们有很深远的这个饮食文化。所以我们的同学们会用食物造型的方式把我们的文化内容带出来。这个呢是拿岭南的这种满洲窗的方式，去用这个概念去做了一个食物的设计，用这种方式把我们本土的手信文化进行推广，吸引更多的年轻人进行购买。这个呢是疫情时代我们经常说早茶，然后像国外的人可能会了解这个叫点心。我们如何把点心这个很具有广州特色的东西，可以用打包的方式去呈现？因为在疫情的期间呢，很多人不能去餐厅，所以在这个时候呢，我们的同学们就想到了这个概念：如何把一个点心、一个早茶打包的同时，它里面的所有东西也是可食用的。用这种方式，它既环保又可以满足广州人的一种饮食文化的习惯，把这种可持续的设计运用到他们当下的生活中。所以对我们来说呢，食物设计其实它没有门槛。我们的同学也体会到，只要我们心中有爱，我们所有人都可以是食品设计师。所以只要用爱的眼光可以看世界的话，所有的细节我们都可以去跟我们的朋友和家人表达爱，这就是食品设计最大的魅力所在。这就是我今天的分享，谢谢大家。
Thank you so much, Professor. I love
Thank
it.
you.
Let me just Thank you so much. I loved it, and I love the last sentence. Of course, as long as we have love in our hearts, we are all food designers. I think I'm going to write it on my wall or somewhere. Beautiful.
Yes,
so
yes.
just because I want to make sure that all presentations stay within the 2 hours, I'm going to go. Would go immediately to our next and final speaker, and then maybe we'll ask a few additional questions in the end. Thank you so much. So Professor, you're still sharing. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Jasper, the floor is yours whenever you're ready to share your screen. And go ahead, no worries. And to everybody, you can start sharing your screen.
Yeah.
And to everybody, whenever you have, not yet. And to the audience, whenever you have questions, just shoot them in the chat room, and we'll be happy to answer. Perfect, Jasper, you're on. Yes.
So it's an honor to be able to talk about my work and talk about ideas around food design. I think the first thing I have to tell you is that I consider myself not as a food designer, but as a designer using the background of food, because I'm a student who studied art history. Then I studied cooking, and I became a chef. I started several restaurants, a cooking school, a chocolate factory, and then in the end, 5 years ago, I started my journey as a designer and artist, and I used the language I know, and that's the language of food. So what I'm trying to say, I use food as a language to tell stories. So I wanted to show you this thing, because I think it's very important as a young student over there in China, or a young food designer. You always have to have a purpose, a personal purpose in your life, and a purpose that will contribute purpose for the world. But I wanted to tell you my personal purpose. And when I started 5 years ago, I created a moonshot goal for myself, what I wanted to achieve with my vision on art using food. And I talked to myself and I said, I would love to have my food into a museum. The best museum there is, I could think of, was the MoMA, New York, Museum of Modern Art in New York. And this was my first idea. It's a cheese platter, and it's a vision of New York. So this is for me the symbol of the starting point of my own story when I started Creative Chef. And I am showing you these peaches because I'm a true believer in the perception of things. So what is the truth around a flavor? Because in Holland, in the Netherlands, where I'm from.
Sorry, Jasper, 1 second. I just want to know if it is just me that I still see your first slide, and if other people see the cheese, or do we all see the first slide? Yes, it looks like we are all seeing the first slide. Okay.
And now, are you seeing this also, the peach?
No, we still see the octopus.
Oh.
Would you mind trying unsharing and then maybe sharing again?
Yes.
Let's see.
You see this?
Now we see the cheese, yes. And if you go full screen. Yes, okay. It looks like it's going. Thank you, sorry.
Yeah,
okay. Perfect.
So you see these peaches, and I'm very into perception of flavors. So what you see here is a peach. But these peaches aren't ripe. And in the Netherlands, we tend to say, if it's not a ripe peach, it's not good. And we tend to throw it away. But the idea I'm very interested in is, why is this peach not good? Because when you change the story around an unripe peach, you can change it into a new product. A really good product that can be used in your dishes, in a salad. So that's maybe the same story about my own company. People saw me as a chef, but I wanted to become an artist. So I defined my own vision and my belief, and this is what I do. Good design, food, art, and music can be the starting point of a good story that can get our lives and the world to the next level. So everything you have to do as a designer is to create good stories when you want to make your own story meaningful. So I'm going to tell you my story. In short, I started out to write a book about experience around food. So I created recipes that will tell you how to create a perfect experience. You can buy it. So if you like it, you can buy it. And I started to cook with more visual aspects. That was my starting point. And then I started to add stories. So this is a very old project. It's sashimi cooked, and I served it as a. So this, can you hear me?
Sorry, I think Yolanda, your mic is on. Sorry.
Okay. So this is a beach. And everything is edible except for the toy things. And the thing is, this is how you can create a setting that's more than only just food. And I started to travel around, show my work, everything, and slowly it developed into more visuals. So this is a photo work I call camouflage salad. and it uses food stories around other objects. And I started to create artworks and show them in galleries. And this is a very old project. It's a cactus where you can, which you can sit down and you can take food from it. But slowly I developed my work into products. So this is a salad that I served, and I used the shapes of the salad to as a designing way. So I turned those shapes into a ceramic set. Here you can see the end result, and here it's set out with the same salad in these objects on the table, which I presented in the center of a room where people could grab a part of that ceramic set. And here you see it used in my other project. It's called the Museum of Taste. The Museum of Taste, here you see a nice picture, is a garden where I grow my own vegetables, flowers, edible herbs, and special heirloom vegetables. And I work together with the University of the Agricultural University in Wageningen, where we grow old varieties of vegetables. So we have a seed from 1893, a carrot. We have a very old tomato from the 1950s. So what I try to serve here
50年代的番茄，我们这样做的目的呢，就是希望能够创造一种味道的时光机。那大家可以看到这个图片呢是在早上拍的，我们花了大概3个小时的时间来做菜，要20个人来品尝。
And I don't use plates or stuff with this thing because it connects people with each other. And this is the kind of food I like to serve. It's what I call hyper local, old varieties, fresh flavors. I think it's also the future, plant-based with a soul into the food. And this is another project I would like to show you. It's my definition of painting, an old master painting from the 17th century. I created this work. It's actual food. It's like a box, three-dimensional box where I plated this food in, and people were able to take the food out. But this was for a museum, for a big exhibition in the Dutch museum, and I'm now working on this version to use it for an exhibition for blind people. So blind people can actually experience 17th century still life paintings. In the end, it was this is another project. It's a video. It's called the Morphing Table. I did this with Bas. And it's an interactive table which uses vacuum technology. It's still in the prototyping phase, but it's a table that's able to create its own plates. So this is all with liquids, and I do this with a German company, Bas. So this is also an example of one of my older projects. I served for a wedding. I served desserts with edible paint on little canvases, and in the end, they painted with while eating, and I took those canvases and I turned it into an artwork. So this is an artwork created by the dining guests, and it's in the house of the people who married. And in the end, it's nice to tell you my dream. I ended up with showing my work at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. So that's what I would like to tell you, young guys. If you have a dream, if you want to become a food designer, it's also good to have a direction where you personally want to go, and then maybe you will find out who you are and what you want to bring to the world. So, and in the end, now I'm working on these kind of objects. So you could say I turned out to be a chef who is now creating art objects, and sometimes I use food. So let me take you to my design method. I always say it's circle-based. This is an old project. I always take a subject. So for me, I can take to the subject of music. So this is like the most simple thing I could serve vegetables who's talking to you through information, and it's sound information. But this is a simple idea, but I think it's not a good, it's a really thin idea. So I started to work a lot around music. So here you see, okay, we can serve on top of a record player. It's fun, but it's not good. It's a nice experience, but it's not a deeper thing, I think. So then I came into a next level. I'm a co-owner of a chocolate factory, and we started to create these cassette decks with personalized sound playlists on it, so you could eat chocolate and listen to your favorite music. And I turned it also in a record. This is actually playable for, I think, two seconds if you really get it fast out of the fridge when the chocolate is really firm, and then you can play this record. But I think I'm on a roll now. I'm getting there, and finally I came to the next step of my music theme. And here you see a collection of plates where I serve food on. On the front you see a graphic design, which are ingredients spinning around at 33 rounds per minute. In the back you see a story about an artist with a favorite song, a recipe, and inside the record sleeve is a plate. So actually I combined food design with graphics, with product design and experience. So this is like a concept that combines it all. So here you see a close-up, and then the next level was if you make music, I also make music, and I started to record sounds. And what I did was I used the sound waves of me playing the bass guitar and the drums, the guitar and the bass. I used those to create a table setting, and I used artificial intelligence and a face recognition software to scan these objects, and it started to play the music. So this is me scanning the bass line. So it started to play the bass line. The yellow cloth is the thing that is playing the drums. And actually, it started out as an interactive setting for people to be able to play music and play along. But then in the end, I created like a setting where I could cook a salad. And while I was cutting the vegetables, I was playing music on top of the music that people were hearing on their table setting. And people could play along. So here, everything comes together into one project. And I'm showing you, so I started with the idea of music. Then I started to create a song. Then I used the sound waves to turn that into a pattern. And then I decided to put that pattern on textiles. Then I used the textiles to create a product, napkins and a tablecloth. I used artificial intelligence and created an app to actually play the sound waves. And when I was doing that, I came to the idea I can create new projects around this experience to be able to play music along with this stuff. Then it ended up into a new experience for people, dining experience, and it ended up with me coming up with a new way of cooking music. So this circle-based pattern created a lot of possibilities, and now I'm currently talking to a big sneaker company to use this technology for another product, for a project for them. So if you think about it, as a chef, I started out using music to create a setting where people could come together and eat, and in the end, it turned out to be a new development of an interactive, experience-based methodology. So now you can try at home to create your own circle-based experience. And this is what I wanted to show you. Finally, this is the project I'm working on now for the World Economic Forum. It's called the Future Food City. And it's a really big project where I think you will hear from this in the future. And it's about how it will be in 100 years. How will we live? What do we eat? And what's my vision on that? So I think this is my story.
That's excellent, Jasper. Thank you so much. Love it. And you called it the next level earlier, and now we even see an image of how you visualize this next level. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Really powerful work, Nicole Vindel says also. Brilliant. So we are about 1 minute to the end, but I think that, Yolanda, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we can have a few more minutes to ask a couple more questions to the speakers. And if you guys have time, of course. I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay. So I first had a question for Lee that I didn't ask before for timing. Lee, how do you perceive creativity and the creative process being considered and used in gastronomy by European and maybe Chinese chefs also, if you can make the parallel?
Well, I think there's a big difference, between according to different culture. Yeah, and even now, in the new future, I don't think they will be like Eastern and Western. They're gonna become one, and people now they will learn each other and trying to be creative. Yeah, just like what Jasper just shared with us. It was amazing work. Yeah, even me, I'm trying to do my own circle-based thing in the kitchen. Who knows?
We could cooperate one day.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully in my restaurant.
That sounds lovely. Brilliant. Thank you, Lee. And in fact, Jasper, what I really liked about what you said, and also you mentioned young designers, right? You spoke to them directly, is how you showed the line of your works with the example of music, for example. From the first one, that it was okay, but you didn't really feel it being as deep as it could be, and then the second and the third one, and finally you got to the level of depth that you wanted to achieve. And I think this is beautiful to see. Firstly, it's humbling, right? And it's a way you're being transparent, and in that, these examples you gave us are very useful because young designers, young food designers that are just approaching this work now, you guys can see how it takes a little bit of time, it takes practice, it takes perseverance, devotion, but Jasper's story tells us that if you have a vision, if you define yourself, as you said before, I was a chef, but I wanted to be an artist, so I was seen as a chef, but I wanted to be an artist, and I defined myself. So you define yourself, then things can happen. Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you, Lee, for your answer. I have one last question for Vanessa, if we have time. Ying?
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a thumbs up. Vanessa, how do you perceive and design for the relationship between food and its vessel? Because what I like about what is clear from your work is that, and as you said before, food and its vessel are designed at the same time. So how do you design for this relationship?
In close collaboration is key for me. But I think we have to, and also we have to shift our perspective when we are designing, because we are clear about what materials can transmit, what emotions or what feelings. We know how to make a shape in size or in color. We understand this, but in order to design for food, I think you have, or to contain food, you have to understand the same aspect from food. So you need to understand the texture of the food. What are you capable of doing with food? And that's why I say collaboration, because for this you need a cooker, a chef, someone that has experience in food and tells you what size the plate is, or what is the normal portion. And besides that will make, let's say, the aesthetics of the piece, combining those two ideas, but also the interaction. No, we have to think, what does the food wants to say? Where does it want to take you? And then you think, well, how can I create this with the interaction? Do I need a different type of fork? Do I need an element to grind something on the plate? What do I need? What object do I need to put on the table besides the plate or in the plate to actually create an interaction with the food and make that message that is coming from the chef more powerful? So for us, I think that the key idea is, well, ingredients are materials. So tomato, what material it is, or a shellfish, what material it is, and the texture of the plate and the color, it's about the flavors, and also the technique, it's about the process, not the industrial process behind. Because you will be surprised. Well, you came to Expeditors to Matter. I didn't have time to explain it, but it's in the web and you have a video if you want to see it. But we wanted really to explore this. And when we started to work with the chef only in creating plates that express the recipe and both ways, it was really difficult for the team, no? Because it was a difficult experience to actually come through, because we left aside all our preference in shapes and color. We were only wanted to respond to emotions and to that interaction, no? But I think, I don't know, as I said also the other day when we met only the team, we create the objects specifically for each experience, but we always, it's important to know what interaction or what function it is going to have. So it doesn't only belongs to us and to our experience, but it also can be used by other chefs or by other restaurants or by people in their home. And now what we are opening today is like a little shop of all of our objects in Madrid for people to can get them, no, and can experience them. Even if they didn't come to an experience now, they can see our plates, play with them, and take them home. And I think this is important, no, that it's not whatever we create as designers, and mostly when we're working with food, is something that people is going to use and it's something that people is going to eat. So we have to be aware of that.
Definitely. I love it. Thank you so much. So guys, I wanted to conclude with a question to any of you, any of the speakers. And of course, if there are more questions from the audience, we'll be happy to read them. So a question to any of you, whomever wants to answer. What do you think is the most misunderstood part of food design? But also maybe, what do you think is the most exciting part of aspects of food design? Maybe Nicole, we haven't heard from you in a while. Microphone. See, it does happen all the time.
Yes, it's not only you. That's a hard question. Like maybe the most misunderstood part would be the potential of a food designer, as we are like an horizontal discipline. You can label it, and actually labels are controversial because you can define yourself as an artist, as a designer, as a chef, as many things, you know, and at the end you're in the middle of everything, you know, but it's needed to have a label. So this is something already controversial, and I feel that it's a horizontal discipline because you can be a graphic designer and narrow it down as much as you want. But then if you're like food artist or food designer, your doing one day you're doing a workshop, the other day you're exploring with materials, the other day you're doing an artwork or an exhibition, and then the other day you're working with a company to make a product, right? So it's not something vertical. And then the most exciting thing from my side, I would say that it's the unexpected, you know, all those things that you don't still know, but someday you will feel curious about that and yeah, explore it.
Love it, excellent. Professor Xing?
Yes. 是的，这个我觉得我很有共鸣啊，因为我觉得现在最容易被误解的，可能很多人讲起食物设计都觉得你可能是一个厨师，或者仅仅只是一个喜欢食物的这样子一个制作者。但是我觉得在食物设计里面，像刚才应该是 Nicole 讲的，我觉得我是很赞同的。像我们可能会除了食物的本身，会有很多的厨师的朋友，当我们品尝了一个很好的食材的时候，我们怎么样可以用环境的设计，包括周围的衍生产品的设计，包括餐具，包括音乐，包括五感，所有的这些细节去把这个食物呈现出来。所以我们经常呢会游走于可能材料的市场，然后或者是一些器皿的一些市场，甚至是音乐，甚至是建筑，所有的这些东西其实它都是围绕着食物进行呈现的。所以我觉得食物设计师它没有门槛，但是它很丰富。在这个里面呢，很多东西我们是可以去做，甚至我们可以做很多融合。然后食物可能只是其中一个环节的一个材料而已，那我们最终呈现出来的所有的东西都在为它去服务，然后再用它去诠释出一个想表达的这样一个意境。所以我觉得食物设计师是很丰富的，而且它很有趣。对，这是我的一个解释。
Thank you, perfect. Thank you so much. Lee, do you have an opinion about this? The most misunderstood part of food design and the most exciting.
Well, I wouldn't say it's an opening. I'm just telling the truth, because when I first time hear food design, as a professional chef, I still focus on the food, but ignore the design. I thought, oh wow, it's about the menu, it's about the dish, and that's all I think about when I first time hear it. So today, of course, I realized I was wrong, and the most surprising thing is it makes me understand food design is a double way, it's not single way. It's normally as a chef, we inspired by art and transform into the dish. But well, after the talk, I realized, well, it's gonna be the other way around. Also works. Yeah, we use ingredients to create art. So it's a double way rather than single way. Yeah,
definitely.
Exactly.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I also would urge you to consider that, in my personal opinion, but many like me, we consider all chefs food designers. Because even if you don't have a piece of paper, some certificate that says I've studied food design, what you guys are doing is constantly applying creativity to the object of food. And the process that you use, that is what we call design in general. Design can be an outcome, or better, there is an outcome to design, a product, a dish, an event, an experience, whatever. But the process itself is something that you guys do all the time, and that's what food design is, right? Applying creativity to the world of food. So all chefs out there, know that you are food designers. Then we can start making a distinction between good design and bad design, or good food design and bad food design, or meaningful, inspiring, valuable, impactful design and type of design. But that's another story. And it really links to what you said, Lee, before in your talk, of this thing of having the need of having an identity, a vision, a concept as a chef. And that's what design is, basically. Jasper and Vanessa, any final thought?
Oh, good. Jasper.
I think it's my vision is it's all about the story you want to tell. If it's a painting or if it's a dish or if it's an experience, if you tell good stories, then it's what it is. I think food design is a really good way to create a new way to tell stories. And we are made out of stories. Our history is a story, so our future is also a story. So I think food design is a very important story to tell about how we can tell different stories.
Thank you. Vanessa?
Yeah, that what Jasper was saying, that we used to say to people, we do feed knowledge, or we are feeding knowledge to people. And for us, it's the same, no? What message are we going to tell? What are we going to talk about? What are we going to show people here in Europe? They have seen a bad way about the Amazon, or the other way around, no? It's always a way around. I want to say people, it's not only flavor and aesthetics, but also how that food has that great potential to make it really emotional, because it's something that goes, at the end, it goes through your body and people take it really emotional. So the message that you give them when you do this work can link really deeply with people and can change the way they think. So that's important, I think.
Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you all. Thank you to all the speakers for your beautiful and inspiring and lovely presentation. Thank you as human beings, because you are adding value to the field, but the planet as well. Thank you to all our attendees and to all those who will listen and see this in the future as well. Thank you, Yin and Platform Plus 86 for the space. And I'm giving the word back to you, Yolanda.
Well, thank you so much for all the speakers and Francesca and all the audience to make today's seminar such a wonderful experience. I'm sure we all learned a lot from the speakers' inspiring speech. And thank you again for Jasper, for Lee, for Professor Xing Penghua, Nicole, and Vanessa for your time and contribution. It's just so many thanks. Okay, so just wrap up. I'm going to share one of our posters, which I think, yeah, that's our third and the rest 4 seminars information with everybody still in the meeting room. Our third seminar, Future Food Brand and Package, will be held in the 10th of April, 10 a.m. in the morning, Beijing time. So it's a little bit too early for our European audience, unfortunately. But for anyone who would like to join, you're welcome. And you can add +86 assistant QR code for receive more information, and also watch the seminars, the recorded video, which will be played back and upload for release. Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks again for the participation and support. Hopefully to see you all soon, and we might have some serious collaboration in the future. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faber.